They say the suburbs are where hope goes to retire. Manicured lawns, identical beige fences, the comforting, almost deadening predictability of it all. But predictability, it turns out, is merely a veil. A thin, polyester sheet over something ancient, something organized, and something with very, very sharp claws. This is the story of Operation 1,000,000 Meerkats, a mission not of survival, but of acquisition. It didn't begin with a bang. It began with an odd silence, a cessation of the usual chirping and fluttering, followed by a sound so subtle, so easily dismissed, that by the time anyone noticed, it was already too late. That sound was the rhythmic tap-tap-tap of hundreds of tiny, efficient tails, echoing in the vast empty space beneath the cul-de-sacs of Sunnyside Pines. For years, we thought the biggest threat to this pristine community was a rogue sprinkler head, or maybe a particularly aggressive HOA president. We were wrong. The threat was smaller, smarter, and had unnervingly keen eyesight. The first sign was the disappearance of garden gnomes, a small, comical detail. But in Sunnyside Pines, gnomes are not just lawn ornaments, they are sentinels. Their vanishing acts were merely the opening curtain on a bizarre, existential horror. And then, the smell, not of decay, but of fresh earth, meticulously turned over, accompanied by a faint, musky Cynthia, unsettling perfume of quiet ambition. Think of it, a colony so large, so covert, that their population count wasn't in the tens or the hundreds, but on its way to 7 digits. 1,000,000 Meerkats, 1,000,000 little faces, all staring out from the shadows, evaluating, strategizing, and waiting for the signal. The signal, which by all accounts was an almost imperceptible shift in the tone of the afternoon ice cream truck's jingle. We just didn't realize they had armed themselves with sheer numbers and an almost unnerving dedication to teamwork. They weren't digging burrows anymore. They were digging foundations. The meerkat, Suricata suricata, is often viewed as a charismatic, if slightly neurotic, star of nature documentaries. A perpetual sentry, standing tall, scanning the horizon. But that posture, that vigilance, is not cute. It is chilling. It speaks to an ingrained, military-grade discipline. And when 1,000,000 of them adopt that posture, the horizon they are scanning is not for a passing eagle. It's for the last human to leave the garage door open. Their operation was a masterpiece of subterranean logistics, a flawless execution of the long con. They tunneled beneath the entire 40-square-mile residential district, creating a vast, intricate network of their own utility lines. We had cable and gas. They had ventilation shafts and strategic food storage caches mostly comprised of purloined dog biscuits and the aforementioned, surprisingly heavy, garden gnomes. The humor, the dark, acidic humor, lies in the sheer politeness of their invasion. The lights still worked. The mail still arrived. Everything on the surface remained perfectly, boringly normal, until you tried to turn on the television and the screen flickered, showing only a low-angle, grainy image of a meerkat's face, staring intently, before snapping back to the Weather Channel. They were observing us, learning our routines, identifying the weak points in the grid. And the weakest point, they concluded, wasn't a fuse box or a pipe. It was the human need for a perfectly organized pantry. This wasn't about chaos. It was about real estate. They weren't here to destroy Sunnyside Pines. They were here to annex it, clean it up, and probably install a far more efficient recycling program. We were the noise, and they were preparing for the great, terrifying silence that would follow the tiniest coordinated push. The critical moment came on what seemed like the most mundane of nights. Tuesday, pizza night. It was the night almost every household in Sunnyside Pines was distracted, hands greasy, eyes glued to syndicated reruns. This was the window, not of opportunity, but of efficiency. The invasion was scheduled for 8:17 p.m. sharp. Why 8:17? Because the meerkat's internal clock is far more precise than any Swiss timepiece, and 8:17 p.m. is precisely when the collective human attention span dips below critical mass. The first indication that something was profoundly wrong wasn't a scream or a crash. It was the eerie, absolute cessation of movement. The crickets stopped. The neighborhood dog, Buster, known for his relentless, existential barking at the moon, went silent mid-woof. It was a vacuum of noise, a terrifying pause that felt denser than the surrounding air. Beneath the perfectly green, chemically treated sod, Operation 1,000,000 Meerkats was reaching its climax. The meerkats surfaced with the speed and coordination of a highly trained Special Forces unit, emerging not in a frenzy, but in disciplined, staggered waves from hidden egress points mostly disguised as poorly maintained drain covers. Their objective wasn't violent confrontation, it was control. Their inherent organizational structure, the strict hierarchy of the mob, meant every single one of the 1,000,000 animals knew its designated job: sentry, digger, gnome, retrieval, and, most disturbingly, the remote control detail. The goal was simple: incapacitate the human inhabitants non-violently by leveraging their dependence on modern convenience. Picture this: 1,000 small, determined silhouettes darting across a moonlit lawn, each one carrying a tiny, vital component, a single car key. the power cord to a Wi-Fi router, or, most cripplingly, the battery from the garage door opener. The dark humor here is that the human response wasn't panic. It was a confused, slow burn inconvenience. Honey, have you seen the TV remote? I swear, I just had it. They were paralyzed by the mild, overwhelming annoyance of a dozen missing, non-essential items. This is the unsettling truth of the uprising. The Meerkats didn't need strength, they needed patience and a masterful understanding of our modern vulnerabilities. They had effectively quarantined the humans inside their own homes, not with bars, but with the frustration of a dead cell phone and a missing car fob. The chilling final image of that night. Not a trail of destruction, but the collective, triumphant stand of a million tiny creatures atop the highest point in Sunnyside Pines, the water tower silently observing their new domain. Their tiny tails flicked with satisfaction. The perfect suburban coup. No bloodshed, just utter, magnificent organizational triumph. They had merely swapped out the ruling class for one that understood the importance of standing tall and always having a lookout. We went to bed, the rulers of Sunnyside Pines. We woke up as its new, slightly confused, and mildly irritated tenants. If you think your neighborhood is safe, if you believe that the biggest threats are above ground, or if you simply can't find your TV remote, you need to understand the chilling truth. Operation 1 million Meerkats might not be overwrit, might just be expanding. Subscribe to our channel and ring the notification bell to ensure you don't miss the next chapter in this terrifyingly organized suburban mystery, where we investigate the Meerkats' strange new infrastructure, decode their communication patterns, and try to answer the most urgent question of all. What exactly do they plan to do with all those garden gnomes? Drop a comment below and tell us the last unexplained small object that vanished from your house. Your missing sock might be their next building material.